Have you ever wondered how they create this type of animation where it seems like someone is scribbling over a video? Most of these animations are created frame by frame, meaning the artist is drawing over each frame one at a time. As you can imagine, it is a time-consuming process, especially if the scribble animations are used throughout a longer video. Out of all the Adobe Creative Cloud applications, you probably would guess this type of workflow is best suited for After Effects, Premiere Pro, or Animate. But the truth is that Photoshop is probably the most convenient and effective one thanks to its video timeline panel and its wide range of brushes and layer styles. Now, before we get started, let's just see what we will be creating. Of course, we won't be doing all the animation here. I'm going to show you one of these arrows, how I animated it. So to get started, we will need to open that video file that we have prepared for this project. And once it opens, it creates a new document with a special video layer inside it. We can see that thumbnail is telling us that this is not a regular layer. Now, it's time to fix our layers. First of all, we have to remove this video group that we have here. It's a very simple step. Just go to the layer menu and choose Ungroup Layers. This is important, otherwise the technique I'm going to show you is not going to work. So next, we have to go to the layer menu again, but this time go to the video layers and choose New Blank Video Layer. So once you do that, you will get an additional layer, and depending where the playhead was, it will create this new layer also here in the timeline. Now you can drag this all the way back just to align it with the other layer, and because it's a blank layer, it doesn't actually have anything inside it. But this is the one that we will be drawing on. So I'm going to rename this layer and I'll just type in Scribble. Now, to be able to see what we are doing, I recommend to click on this arrow as well for the scribble layer that we just created. This way we will be able to see all the frames that we will be drawing on. So now that we have everything ready, it's time to select the brush tool. Now I'm going to go back a little bit in time. I want this line to appear somewhere around here, and I'm going to start drawing. First, I'm just going to draw a very small arrow just appearing here under the skateboard. Now, to move to the next frame, we could use the playhead and just drag it there, or use the command from the panel menu, which is this drop down here on the right, go to next frame. Since this is a command we will be using a lot, it's worth setting up a keyboard shortcut for it. To create a custom keyboard shortcut, just go to the edit menu and choose keyboard shortcuts. Make sure you choose shortcuts for panel menus, then search for the panel that you are using. In this case, it's the timeline for video. And within that, you will find the two commands. So next frame and previous frame. So just to test this out, I'm going to use the shortcut going forward, frame by frame, and going back again, frame by frame. So now I can see that there's the first frame that we drew. I can move to the next frame and I can continue drawing it like that. So I'm going back and forth and it is looking good. Let's go to the next frame. Again, I'm trying to stay in the middle. Again, I'm going back. That is looking good. To make our life easier, there is actually a very useful feature called Onion Skin, which you can again find from the timeline panel menu. You just have to make sure you choose Enable Onion Skins. Once you click on that, it's going to show us the previous frames, but there are also settings for this, which you can find again in the panel menu and choose Onion Skin Settings. Now, these are the default settings, but you can change them, of course. You can adjust, for instance, the blend mode. You can set it to normal or screen. In this case, I am going to stick with the multiply because I feel like that helps me to see the current frame and the previous frame. It, by the way, shows one frame from before and one frame after the current frame. That's how it works. So if I click OK and I just go back one frame, now we can see the current frame is this one, which is a little bit brighter than the other ones. And then we can see the previous frame where that small arrow is first appearing and the next frame, which is right after it. So this way, when I move back and forth, I can see how we are switching between these frames. And now when I jump to this frame, it's much easier to be able to draw the next frame because I can just jump there and I can see exactly what we had in the previous frame. So that's the advantage of onion skin. So I am going to draw again from the center of the skateboard and just make the arrow a little bit longer, then move to the next frame again. And now let's just speed things up a bit so we can see how this animation turns out. I am always just jumping to the next frame and drawing quickly each time with the brush tool. You can see the frames being added in the timeline as I am making progress, and we are almost done. But now I'm going to turn off the onion skin to be able to see this in action. So there's the option, we just turn this off, and then let's take a look. I'm going to press spacebar on the keyboard, and there it is. Let's go back again, play it. Looks quite nice. I think we've done a good job. Once you have the animation itself, you can start playing around with it. First of all, I am going to go to the layers panel and double click on the scribble layer. So when you do a double click, it opens up the layer style panel. And first, let's try out something simple like outer glow. If you click on that, you get the settings here on the right, which might be different for you. But I'm going to click on reset to default, which is going to be a white glow set to 35%. But if we increase the intensity of that, you can see how it changes. I'm going to probably set it to around 50%. And I will also increase the size and maybe even the spread. So that adds a really strong glow around the arrow. So let's see the animation with this. It almost turned it into a light source, like a neon light. So I'm going to go back and play it as well in real time. Even then, we can see that effect is looking quite cool. But before we continue, let me tell you a little bit about my latest course. Welcome to the most hands-on Photoshop course you've ever seen. This isn't your typical featured tour. We are diving straight into exciting creative projects, and you are encouraged to create completely unique designs. I am not just teaching Photoshop. I am empowering you to express yourself, tell your story, and create designs that resonate with your unique style. This is your chance to create work that is truly personal and worthy of your professional creative portfolio. You can follow along with each project and replicate my designs, or you can use the workflows and techniques I show you and create something completely different and unique. There are endless possibilities and variations thanks to the massive library of creative assets I put together for this course. For each project, there are at least 10 times more assets available than what I end up using in my examples. And now, for a limited time, you can get this course as part of an amazing Black Friday bundle. Find out more by clicking on the link on the top right or in the description below. There's a lot of other things we can do. So for instance, we can go in here and add a color overlay. So that's another effect we can apply. And I'm going to change the color, maybe choose yellow, which will stand out quite well from the background. I click OK. And by the way, you can always turn off the glow effect. In this case, because I just want to focus on the color, I'm going to have that selected. Again, we can play the whole thing. So the great thing is that you don't have to go back and change the color of each of the frames. This applies globally on all the frames since this is a single layer. But here comes the interesting bit. Within the timeline panel, notice that we can animate additional things like position, opacity, and style. For us, there is an opportunity to animate the style, which is the layer style. So if I click on that stopwatch, it will create a keyframe in the timeline panel. Now I can move this keyframe around, I can reposition it to the end of the animation, and then I can come back to the beginning, somewhere around here. And if I go back to the color overlay effect by double clicking on it and change the color maybe to red, what will happen is that it's going to automatically transition from red to yellow throughout this animation. So if I play this, you can see how the color changes. Now, when you're ready with one detail, like in this case, I feel like this arrow is looking good. we can go to the layer menu and create a new blank video layer where we can continue adding another detail. It's always better to keep these separate instead of doing everything on the same layer. It just gets harder to move things around later if you want to. So I wanted to add a little rotating X, which I can quickly draw, again, frame by frame. Going through this, it won't take long. And let's take a look at how it animates. In case you want to position this somewhere else, you can just use the move tool and drag it around, and that's going to drag the whole animation to that point. And if we want it to appear earlier or later within the animation, we can do that by dragging the whole layer to the left or to the right within the timeline panel. So if I want to align it to the other animation, so it appears at the same time, I can do just that, and I can see now it appears at the same time. And it's exactly the same length as well, so they disappear at the same time. And what's even cooler is that you can even duplicate video layers. So you just go to the layers panel, right click on the layer you want to create a duplicate of, choose duplicate layer, or press Command or Control J, and there's the duplicate layer. We can align it, and now we have two of these. We can use the move tool, drag it up, and now we can see two of them appearing. Now, when you are ready with your project to export it as a video file, you will have to go to the File menu and then choose Export, Render Video here at the bottom. So find a fun video that you created recently, open it up in Photoshop, and have fun working on your next Scribble animation.